Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Culz Reviews. Today we're going to be discussing the 2011 docudrama Jack the Ripper, The Definitive Story. It's probably going to be a case we talk about a decent amount, at least with the amount of books that I'll be checking out this year. Usually on a different suspect that may or may not be the Ripper, because there's just so many in London. Apparently at this time that could have been him. But you can see it's Sam, it's me, the usual lineup. Sam, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Well, good-ish, but yeah, good.
Well, as far as Jack the Ripper, outside of the stuff I've made you watch, was this your first time watching this documentary?
The specific one, yes.
Yeah, I will say for the audience, I guess, a little behind the scenes, not the one I planned to start off with. I was going to start off with another one because it talks about another suspect that I don't think it has a book written about him. But unfortunately, not streaming, so it has to wait for when we can watch it together. So we ended up picking this one, and I think for what it is, it's a decent look at the story. It doesn't really go into too many suspects per se. It does go into a couple towards the end, and usually outside of one, two of them are two of the big three, I suppose, if you want to call it that. But Sam, what's something you took away from this one?
Back in those times, they were just kind of, they would like push things like under the side and like hide a bunch of stuff. Like they would remove the body and just clean it up. Just try to like get it out of public view for the most part.
What's crazy about like all this, obviously it's the lack of attention to the crime scene that you'd see in like modern cases, obviously. Where like you're talking about the washing away of the chalk at one of the scenes of the crimes, right? Or a little bit down the road from the scene of the crime. Washing the blood up really way, moving the body before really examining it, not taking pictures outside of the final victim. Again, with this case, there's so many possibilities, but as far as the canonical five, you don't even get like a actual crime scene photo till the final scene. So yeah, it's one of those cases you wonder if it's ever going to be solved. I know it's kind of in the news recently again for being solved by DNA, and we'll talk about that at some point. But my personal beliefs currently, I don't think we'll ever solve it. Just because it's a super long ago. B, London was huge. It was also a port city. And C, the majority of the evidence is gone as far as like what they're looking for and just the documentation. They got rid of it to make space. So would make it hard for us to even try. At this point, it's trying to fit things to make things work. Now, there are suspects that do seem very possible, but then you get some wild theories, which if anyone's seen the Johnny Depp movie From Hell, it's one of those really kind of wild theory type movies. Is there any like maybe patterns you picked up on in this one, Sam, as far as like the victim or anything like that?
I mean, the patterns were, it's definitely like they were going towards like prostitutes for a majority of it. Other than that, it was prostitutes and women. Women prostitutes, I guess, would be the correct way to say that.
Yeah, and the going after prostitutes was probably just easiest targets, mainly because they're already out at night, late at night, and usually, obviously, the police are looking out for them, so they know kind of secret places to go where maybe the police don't look as often. So it makes them much easier for a person to pick out and get. Now, this one I think does a good job at as far as like going into the two murders pre the canonical five and just explaining maybe those were the start. Maybe, serial killers, they kind of start out, they don't know their footing, and then they kind of escalate. What you see and hear, it gets worse as the killings go on. And then you get to the canonical five, which was Marianne Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and the final one was Mary Jane Kelly. And then it does go over a couple others post the five that may or may not have been included as well. So usually people say maybe four, because there's some people that argue that maybe one of the five, being Elizabeth Stride, wasn't a Ripper murder. But either four,
because it wasn't like to his normal repertoire.
Mm-hmm. Now the argument for that is he was walked up on and spooked and fled the scene, and then that's why he killed again that night, because it's the only time there's the two killings in one night. Mm-hmm. And I guess it would back up the letters if, depending on the time frame when the police got the letters, because if the public doesn't know about the two and you get a letter that same morning, I mean, that's pretty on point. That was probably from the killer.
I would agree with that. Yeah, if the public knew, it could just be someone trying to, kind of has been done many times, where they just try to take claim for something. Want to be the one to take claim for it, which is kind of weird and silly, but it is something people do nowadays.
Yeah, it's something weird with, like, you'll see it with people in jail or people on death row will start just claiming all these murders that they really didn't have. Like, you can rule them out. They're not even the location. And I don't know what that is about, if it's just, like, trying to make themselves feel bigger. And then, like, also at this time, apparently there's a lot of people just wanting to, like, prank the, police officers. Because they were getting thousands of letters, and a lot of them were just prank letters. Which is just, I don't know, it's kind of a weird mindset. I would say, though, maybe it's just a sign of the times, considering at one point one of the maybe witnesses said she was awoken by her cat and heard murder, and she didn't really think anything of it because it was so commonplace, so she went back to bed. Like, it's got to say the times were not the best. We got to feel pretty lucky we don't live in those times.
Yeah, because if you woke up, heard murder, and it was just like, whatever. It's like, what?
Right. Yeah, no, the Whitechapel district in that portion of London just doesn't sound like a very fun place to be. Which is weird, because obviously we've listened to other things, and there was, the upper class, the rich folk, would actually do what is called slumming, and just, like, dress up as homeless sometimes. Sometimes they just go full, like, clothes they normally wear, but then go, like, see how the other half live, like, walk around and live that way for a little bit. And it's just such a weird, like, thing,
It is strange, but it's also, they just probably are curious and want to understand it.
I'm just trying to think of, like, people today doing that, like any big celebrities that would just be like, I'm going to dress up and just go slum around. You're just like, what? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that'd be kind of strange nowadays, but you never know.
Right, with people you never know. One thing I did like with this one, because it does have kind of like reenactments as it's going through, but every time they see a person that may be the Ripper with the victim, it's always played by a different actor. So I kind of enjoyed that, because obviously outside of some of the claims where people are like, this is for sure Jack the Ripper, we really don't know who he was. So it's kind of neat to, because at the same time, we don't know if any of the witness statements actually saw the Ripper himself. So it would make sense.
Or just saw one of the clientele before him.
Yeah. Yeah, because some of them they saw like hours before the person died. So probably wasn't the Ripper at that point.
You saw somebody, but you probably didn't see him.
Yeah. Well, especially because one of the victims had gotten her DOS money a couple times, so we know they were able to get clientele pretty easily. As far as the couple suspects they showed off in this one, they did Tumblety, who's an American who was over in London at the time, and a doctor. And I don't know if the press in London ever came out about it. He was held in prison for other charges, indecency. But
They talk about that, and he was over there for homosexual reasons.
Well, that's what he got in
That's what they
trouble
proclaimed.
for.
Oh, that's what they charged him for.
Yeah, it was indecency because of that. Sign of the times again. Much different world back then, where that was a reason that he got in trouble. Now he's one that people are like, he could be. I know there's quite a bit of books written about him. The other one is Druid, which is would make sense, I guess. I mean, after the last one, he dies, I don't know, a couple months later, and there's no more killings unless you count the other ones after that. And he's definitely one that probably in the top 3. I don't know if I'd put Tumblety as far as like people's top 3. I do see him mentioned a lot. And then the final one is Kosminski. In this case, they go with Aaron Kosminski, who's clearly in the top 3 of most sites you see of who could be the Ripper. He's also the one where the recent DNA study said it was Aaron Kosminski. Of course, like I said, we'll go over that in a different video because there's a whole host of errors, I think, in that one. Definitely a very probably, maybe likely candidate. Again, where he is and where he isn't at the time of the murders would make sense and coincide, though. Again, I think with any of these guys, there's a lot of reasons why they couldn't be. And with Kosminski, there's other Kosminskis around, and I think there's Kaminsky as well. And so we don't know. Maybe it was a misspelling. But out of those 3, Sam, which of those 3 do you think sounded the most likely from this documentary, we'll say? Because I've watched documentaries that will convince you otherwise, but out of this one.
I would say probably Kosminski, one that was like kind of schizophrenic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this document
would make the most sense, but also possibly not. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Right. No, I mean, again, with London and how many, I mean, there's thousands of suspects, and there's a probably good handful. You could probably get 10 or 15 that you could probably make the argument was the Ripper. And there's some people that think out of all these people that we've mentioned or talked about, none of them are the Ripper. Like, there's some people think the Ripper's not been named, which is, again, probable. London was a port city, so there were ships coming in and out. I mean, he just had to ride the ship out. No one would have known.
Correct.
I would say this one definitely probably leans in with the Kosminski. Obviously, it talks about 2 of the many detectives believing, well, one may be writing in his annotated edition, self-annotated edition, the last name of Kosminski. And then, of course, people later on going, oh, it's Aaron Kosminski. And then, of course, the documentary goes back and kind of shows some of the scenes with the actor who plays Aaron Kosminski in the scenes we saw earlier with different actors. Druid, they really don't talk about a lot. They just kind of give a brief one. Same with Tumblety. The biggest thing with Tumblety is they showed a cobra, like a taxidermied cobra, in his scene, and I was like, whoa, I own that cobra. Like, I don't know how
he
old
bought it from the documentary.
Bought it before I watched. This is, I think, maybe my second time watching this. I did watch it before, but yeah, I mean, this one definitely leans in, I think, with Kosminski, which makes sense. I mean, but at the same time, I don't know if they for sure say it was Kosminski, but it seems like that's where they were headed with it.
That final marker.
I'm sure everyone knows the Jack the Ripper case. It's not like it's an unknown commodity. It's probably the most famous unsolved case of all time. They have a whole subform. I mean, the people call themselves ripperologists who study it. I mean, we've been in the Billy the Kid world, and none of them have like Billy. I mean, I guess the ufology have what is it, ufologists. So I guess it's kind of like that, which just I guess shows you the scope of how much this has taken over the public zeitgeist. Any final thoughts with this one, Sam?
No, I mean this one's always been such a interesting and unique case. It's almost, I mean, since we brought up ufology, it's almost like a UFO sighting. It's like so many people say many things, or like a cryptid sighting. Mm-hmm. It's like it's all just mentioned and no one really knows or has really saw it or knows anything really. It's just something that like happened and they didn't have as much technology or ways of going about things as we did, because the dude was just doing what did they say, like a dry test or like some weird or an interesting like form of testing the body. It was like a cold test or something.
Oh yeah, just the filling the body to see how cold it felt, to see how long it had been dead. And at that night was apparently extremely cold, so the body's going to chill pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So probably not the best way to test how long a person was dead for.
True, but that's kind of what they had at the time, so you know. It was just like, yeah, it's been dead this long.
Right. Yeah, no, it's again, it shows how much we've progressed. We've done this with a lot of cases. I do think your explanation or correlation with cryptids is good, because a lot of the witnesses, even in this one, who purportedly saw a man with one of the victims, it's always different heights, different kind of like look. They always have a mustache, but that was pretty common back then. But there was like 5'5" or 5'7" or 5'11" or 25, 30, 40, different ages and different stuff. Again, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? And then they wanted to blame a specific group of people as well.
Yeah, which again may or may not have influenced the wiping away of the chalk writing, since it was anti-Semitic and said the Jews. That was
just been
Kosminski. Yeah, was purported to be a Polish Jew, if the notes were correct. But they did go after another guy, Leather Apron, and he was like completely innocent.
Just hearing Leather Apron just reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that poor dude was, I mean, who knows? He might have been the Ripper, but I don't think so. I'm just saying.
So either. It
was just mass hysteria. It happens a lot in history, and they were just very fearful of Jewish people, I guess, and they saw this dude who was a butcher, and they were like, must be him. They didn't have any evidence. They just like worked themselves up into a panic, and then the police like arrested him, talked to him, and released him because he had alibis. So they're like, nah, this guy checks out.
Right. Yeah, on their way of like trying to figure it out, they were like, the precision cuts, they must be a doctor. And then it was just like, well, then it could be a butcher. Then the final guy's just like, maybe they didn't know anything at all and just...
Yeah, well, I forget which guy they were talking about, but yeah, he was like, yeah, you probably didn't need knowledge. It looks like the dude was just slashing away, like, probably no knowledge needed in that case. And again, I think it just depends on how long some of these acts took to happen, which is another part of the mystery. They don't know how long. Some people said 5 minutes. Hey, could have happened in 15, So, yeah, it's just one of those mysteries. Maybe something we'll start doing more is these unsolved cases. We got one here in Colorado. It's a two-parter. It'll be the same episode, but there's two events we'll cover in the same episode that may or may not be correlated to some other big events throughout the United States, if you believe a book or not. But yeah, we'll get down there. We'll film that, and hopefully you guys enjoy that. We're gonna try to do some other kind of new historical things, but we'll be continuing our usual. Sam got a lot of UFO stuff filmed, and he's got more planning to film. Sam, though, before we do end off, rating recommendation for this one.
I definitely recommend it. It's a good one to just like kind of dive into with like how they explain it and all that stuff. And this one's interesting. Again, Keegan has showed me another one which goes it's kind of roughly around the same stuff, but like talks about it differently. So each of them have like a different take on it. So if you like listening to possible different options, I mean, give it a shot. It's actually pretty good. I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, no, like Sam said, if you watch these, read any of the books, it's almost like just pick which route you want to go down because they're all so different. They all have the same story, but it's different people that did it, different reasonings. Some people apparently are just throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, into the case. This one I think is a good basic overview of the case. It also, I think, does a good job at kind of recreating what London at the time would have looked like. Because if you go today, some of those roads don't exist. Some of those locations are gone. Yeah. Some of the roads are just buildings now. Like, you can't even go to where the road or the building was because London's changed in the 130 years since these. But I'd say a good entry, 7 out of 10. Not a bad place to start, especially if you want to just learn some of the basics and get to know some of the things. And then maybe it might pique your interest and want to learn more. And then, like Sam said, it's a rabbit hole. It's kind of like ufology or cryptids and stuff like that, where you start looking at one and then there's other things. We've done that with a couple different cases, even not like paranormal, with abandoned Colorado, where we start with a dam and ended up with the Potato King. I mean, history has some weird rabbit holes you can go down. So, yeah, 7 out of 10. I do recommend. But until next time, guys, we will be back for more Culz reviews. Click that link to your left. For more about us here at Culz Paranormal, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe.
Notification bell from Personalized to All if you want to be notified on all of the upcoming videos.
And let us know, who do you think was Jack the Ripper? Tell us in the comments below.